Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session of the Montgomery County Council. This morning, before we get into our general business, we have two presentations. The first is a proclamation recognizing World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and I'm going to turn it over to Council Member Katz, and we have representatives from the County Exec's office here as well.
Who's ever here for this proclamation, if you could please join us. Good morning, all. We recognize World Elder Abuse Awareness Day to provide an opportunity to educate, empower, and protect older adults from financial exploitation, abuse, and neglect. Elder abuse refers to intentional or negligent acts by a caregiver or trusted individual that causes harm to a vulnerable older adult. This abuse can occur anywhere, in the home with family and friends, online, or in other public and private spaces, and it affects people across all socioeconomic groups, cultures, and races. In late April, we learned that a man was convicted of a gold bar scam involving two people over the age of 70 in Montgomery County. John McCarthy is here, and I have a feeling he might even mention that. The scam involved tricking people into converting their savings into gold bars and handing them over to criminals posing as people who were to safeguard that money. One Bethesda man had converted more than $1 million in total into gold bars as part of the scam. Open lines of communication and increased awareness of scammers who are increasingly using artificial intelligence can help stop elder abuse. If anyone suspects elder abuse or neglect, you should call Adult Protective Services at 1-800-91-PREVENT, which is 1-800-917-7383. Finally, we want to mention that on June 17th, from 9:30 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there will be an event celebrating World Elder Abuse Awareness Day at Holiday Park Senior Center, which will include presentations, information tables, and interactive sessions. In closing, let's work together again to continue to work together to end this cruel type of abuse targeting our most vulnerable in our community. What I'm going to do now is ask the people behind me to introduce themselves, and then we're going to have CAO Rich Madaleno representing County Executive Elrich, Dr. McGee, and John McCarthy speak. You might be John McCarthy. Okay. Not yet. Just introduce yourself.
My name is John McCarthy. I'm the State's Attorney for Montgomery County.
Hi, Debbie Feinstein, Chief of the Crimes Against Seniors and Vulnerable Adults Subdivision with the State's Attorney's Office.
Good morning, Mario Werzussen. I'm the Administrator for Adult Protective Services, working with Dr. Patrice McGee of Aging and Disability Services.
Good morning, Maxwell Wee. I'm the Sheriff here in Montgomery County.
Good morning, Kelly Davis, Program Manager for our Crimes Against Seniors and Vulnerable Adults Division with the State's Attorney's Office.
Good morning, Willie Parker Lowe, Montgomery County Police, Chief of the Investigative Services Bureau.
Good morning, Jeff Bungie with the Montgomery County Police. I am the captain of our Special Victims Investigations Division.
Good morning, I'm Lieutenant Dave Cohen. I'm with the Special Victims Investigations Division as well.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Katz. I'm sorry that the county executive could not be with us today. He's at a doctor's appointment, but he asked me to come by and express our partnership with the council, with the community on World Elder Abuse Prevention Month. So, elder abuse is one of the most hidden and heartbreaking forms of harm in our society. It doesn't always leave visible bruises, but it leaves deep, lasting damage. We have a responsibility to shine a light on this issue since it thrives in silence. Raising awareness is the first step towards prevention. Our older population is growing faster than ever before. I can say that from personal experience as I'm 1 week from turning 60.
Wow.
I know, so thank you. That means more people. Yeah. That means more people may be vulnerable and more families may need help in navigating how to keep loved ones safe. We must be proactive, not reactive. Waiting till the harm has occurred is too late. A just and compassionate community values its older residents, not only for what they've done, but for who they continue to be. No one should live their later years in fear, isolation, or neglect. That's not the county we strive to be. And this is not just a job for our law enforcement or social workers. Neighbors, friends, postal workers, bank tellers, we all have a role in recognizing warning signs and speaking up. When people know the signs of elder abuse and how to respond, lives are protected. Most caregivers do their work with love and dedication, but caregiving can be overwhelming, and when caregivers don't have support, stress can lead to crisis. Part of preventing elder abuse is making sure caregivers are not left to carry the burden alone. We're working to build a system of support through education, outreach, and partnerships that make our county safer for older adults. Whether it's legal aid, emergency services, community programs, we're committed to ensuring that no one is left behind. If something does not look right, say something. If you need help, reach out. And if you're not sure what to do, ask, because help is available. Together, we can make sure every older adult in Montgomery County is safe, seen, and supported. I encourage, as you heard Councilmember Katz say, for anyone who's interested to attend our World Elder Abuse Awareness Safety Forum next Tuesday, June 17th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. at the Holiday Park Senior Center in Silver Spring. Thank you all very much, and thank you again, Councilmember Katz and all the council members for their joint effort in making sure the community is aware of this issue.
Thank you. Please. You want to speak? No, Mario, go.
Good morning. Once again, I'm the Administrator for Adult Protective Services. I'm also the Chair of the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day community outreach that we do. And this is a service of the Montgomery County Elder Vulnerable Adult Abuse Task Force that is chaired by Chief Debbie Feinstein. Does a terrific job. And the key to this event, this is an international event. It started in 2006. The World Health Organization, the United Nations, and other partners decided it is important to get the word out about elder abuse and some of the risks that our older adults face on a daily basis. So that's our purpose. We work in a collaborative method where Montgomery County is well known because it works together with law enforcement, State Attorney's Office, Emergency Medical Services, Fire Rescue. Adult Protective Services has 2 folks embedded in that program because they see some of the risks, the neglect, the physical abuse, even self-neglect. Someone has a stroke. They're no longer able to take care of themselves. We want them to know who they can call for assistance and help. So we've mentioned what the state hotline is. That's true. It's 1-800-91-PREVENT. But we also encourage folks to call locally, too, at our Area Agency on Aging at 240-777-3000, because we have information at the local level, and also Adult Protective Services can intervene. And you can be assured we're going to work closely with law enforcement and our state attorney's office to get the job done, to keep folks safe. I think it's important to know also that Adult Protective Services, when we receive a call, it's anonymous, and so folks can make that call and your name will not be disclosed. So be assured of that. And we will send out a clinical social worker and or nurse for that situation. But really what's most important with this event, and yes, it is on June 17th, thank you, Tuesday at Holiday Park Senior Center, it's also simulcast. If you sign up on Eventbrite, there's posters out there. It's on the county webpage. Thank you, Public Information Office. You can just QR code it, and you can watch it on Zoom. And it's really important because the folks that make these reports, it's not the older adults themselves typically. 90% of all of our reports come from family, friends, neighbors, professionals, EMS, fire rescue, police, crisis center staff. So it's important to know that if you see something, say something. 240-777-3000. Thank you, and thank you for your attention. Hope to see you on the 17th.
My name is John McCarthy. I just want to say, look, this is one of the examples of why Montgomery County is a great place to live. Our senior community is our fastest growing cohort in the community. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I do, and I've done this with Sid and other members of the county council, we've gone out and made presentations educating the public about the different things that are happening in the community. The greatest tool we have is education. I think everybody here is united in educating our senior community against the way people get access to them. And basically, watch out for your phones, watch out for your computers, watch out for the pop-up ads. Things are happening and increasing. And I will tell you, one of the reasons we think education is so important is sometimes things like the Gold Bar scandal. And we've prosecuted several of these cases. And it's lots of money, and there's lots of victims in Montgomery County. Sometimes it's tough to get your money back. So if you're really going to be intelligent about this, what we need to do is to educate people before they are taken advantage of, particularly in financial scams. And I'm proud to stand with all the men and women that are here with me. And I'm really proud of Debbie, who's from my office, who's the chair of this. And thank you for being here, and thank you for recognizing this entire group of people.
Thank you. We have a proclamation. I also wanted to say, and John touched on it as well, people get embarrassed that this happened to them. Don't get embarrassed. The bad guys want you to be embarrassed so that you won't tell. If this happens, tell. This is a proclamation from the Montgomery County Council, whereas this year marks the 19th anniversary of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which is recognized internationally as a day in which the entire world unites in promoting a better understanding of the abuse that older people may suffer, and
whereas it is the 15th anniversary of Montgomery County's observance of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and the 10th anniversary of Montgomery County joining the World Health Organization and AARP network of age-friendly communities, and
whereas according to the World Health Organization, roughly 1 in 6 older adults experience some form of abuse during their lifetime, including psychological, financial, physical, or sexual, and
I just want to point out it's nice to mention the World Health Organization. Whereas according to projections from the Maryland Department of Planning, Projections and State Data Center, by 2040, 1 in 5 Montgomery County residents will be 65 and older, and 1 in 3 will be 55 and older. That reflects a 113% increase in the county's older adult population from 2010 to 2040. And whereas Montgomery County, as an age-friendly community, strives to be a wonderfully diverse community for a lifetime, a place where all residents can thrive to their full potential and contribute as a powerful resource in making our county a better and stronger community for everyone. And
whereas Montgomery County has a dedicated elder and vulnerable adult abuse task force, which, along with county agencies, hosts a special safety information event in recognition of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, with the knowledge that educating seniors, their families, and caregivers about abuse is critical to its prevention. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Executive and the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby join the International Declaration of June 15, 2025, as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, to be observed in Montgomery County on Tuesday, June 17th, with a live stream public safety seminar from the Holiday Park Senior Center in Silver Spring. We urge all our community members to join us in recognizing the contributions elders make to our county and renewing a focus on the prevention and response to acts of abuse against older adults. It's presented today, and it's signed by our County Executive Mark Elrich and our Council President Kate Stewart. Thank you very much. You all get to stand. You can be in charge of all this.
Thank you very much for everyone who joined us this morning and all the work that you do. Next, we have a proclamation recognizing Caribbean American Heritage Month, and we have Councilmember Sales, and I think Mr. Madaleno is going to stay for that one as well. I think we get Mr. Madaleno most of the morning. So thank you to Councilmember Sales for all she does to lift up Caribbean American Heritage Month. This is the third year in a row, and I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Madam President. And if you are here for the Caribbean American Heritage Month proclamation, please join me up here. All of my Caribbean massive, come on. All right. So good morning, everyone, and happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. Thank you for joining us to celebrate the culture, contributions, and legacy of Caribbean Americans in Montgomery County and across the world. June honors National Caribbean American Heritage Month, a crucial occasion for recognizing and celebrating the remarkable cultural, scientific, and economic contributions of Caribbean Americans from 13 sovereign countries to the United States. For the first time in over 2 decades, the current administration failed to issue any proclamations for Caribbean Heritage Month, a tradition started since President Bush over 2 decades ago. Instead, this president recognized our county and other jurisdictions as communities of sanctuary designation, deployed over 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles over the weekend to address protests against immigration raids. As a result, authorities detained David Huerta, president of the SIU California Labor Union, along with others during ICE raids across Los Angeles. Caribbean Heritage Month is not just for reflection, it's a call to action. This time is especially concerning amid ongoing efforts to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at the federal level and the United States Supreme Court, upholding a decision that threatens the legal status of over 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and others, leading to fears of deportation across the nation amidst dire circumstances in their home countries. As we celebrate Caribbean Heritage Month here in Montgomery County, it's important to advocate for immigration reform, justice, and recognize the vital role of the Caribbean community in this ongoing struggle. We need to invest in our youth, support local entrepreneurs, and break down barriers to ensure accessibility to housing, healthcare, and opportunity. Culture goes beyond music and food. It encompasses power, purpose, and policy making by inviting our diverse residents to take a seat at our tables and inform the decisions we make and how we allocate resources in our county. Contrary to what we're witnessing on TV here in Maryland and Montgomery County, we are fortunate to have strong Caribbean representation at all levels of government, from Governor Wes Moore to former Ambassador Curtis Ward, Attorney General Anthony Brown, and Maryland State Delegate Janelle Wilkins, and myself, who you will hear from shortly, Delegate Wilkins. Nearly a third of Maryland's 87,000 Caribbean-born residents and their children live in Montgomery County, enriching our cultural fabric daily. I want to thank the Montgomery County Caribbean American Advisory Group, led by Liaison Rodrigue Vital and Chair Venice Mundell Harvey, for your incredible work. Jamaica National Association, and thank you to our special guests, Maryland Delegate Janelle Wilkins, Ambassador of Jamaica to the United States of America, His Excellency Major General Anthony Anderson. And of course, thank you to Island Pride Oasis, the owner Joan, for providing this morning's delicious Jamaican breakfast. Small businesses like yours are the cornerstone of our community. Thank you for joining us to celebrate Caribbean Heritage Month. I would now like to invite a few special guests to share remarks before we present the final presentation proclamation with Mr. Madaleno. So we will now hear from His Excellency, Major General Retired Anthony Anderson. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Council Member Lori-Ann Sales, for inviting me here. I'm newly minted as Ambassador of Jamaica to the United States, only about a week now. And I've been living in Maryland for about a week now. So I'm a new member of your community. It's my pleasure to actually start off as one of my first engagements with this Caribbean American Proclamation event. I have a mixed Caribbean heritage. I'm both Jamaican and Grenadian, and I've had the opportunity over my working life to operate in most Caribbean countries. Work there. So I'm very familiar with that side of things, and as I'm here in the United States now, it's really an opportunity to get familiar also with what is happening here. Obviously, a great interest of mine is our diaspora here, of which there's a huge one, Jamaican diaspora in the United States. And so I'm really looking forward to getting more involved in what is happening here and see how we can support that large Caribbean community here in the United States. So thank you very much for the warm welcome I received and the Jamaican breakfast. It's really a pleasure to meet all of you, and I'm sure we'll be engaging each other again. Thank you.
Thank you to His Excellency, Mr. Anderson. And now we will hear from Delegate Janelle Wilkins. Thank you so much, Council Member. Your leadership in this county has truly been tremendous, and thank you for making sure that we gather and come together, especially in a time like this. Again, I'm Delegate Janelle Wilkins. I represent District 20 in the Maryland House of Delegates, which is the Silver Spring Tacoma Park area. I am proud to be born in Kingston, Jamaica, and to have grown up here in the United States. And my story and my family's story is the story of America and freedom and opportunity. Before I was even born, my family was here undocumented in the United States. And it took people who advocated for policy, for changes, to make sure that my family was able to come out of the shadows, and that eventually I would be able to migrate to the United States and be before you now as an elected official making the laws for the state of Maryland. That is the land of opportunity and the dream of America. And what I think is also important is that as we work for our communities in this challenging time, we're making the policies for the future, for the next generation of people who we may never know as we fight for the laws and policies for the communities that are here. And today, as we celebrate Caribbean Heritage Month, we recognize here in Montgomery County the fabric of diversity that makes up our region, the diversity that we celebrate and will continue to celebrate. So I'm proud to represent this area. I am proud to work with this amazing council who really work to ensure equality and inclusion. And let me end by recognizing His Excellency, Mr. Anthony Anderson, and welcome him to the great state of Maryland. We look forward to working with you and making sure that you have a productive stay in this role, and that we continue to work together to get so many things done. Happy Caribbean Heritage Month, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Wilkins. And now we will hear from Chair Venice Mundell-Harvey of the Caribbean Advisory Group.
Yes, I'm short too. Good morning. It's truly a pleasure to stand and a privilege to stand here before you this morning as the chair of the Caribbean American Advisor Group, and also as a small business owner here in Montgomery County. Montgomery County is a vibrant, as the chair of the Caribbean American Advisor Group, and as a proud representative of the vibrant, resilient, and ever-growing Caribbean community here in Montgomery County. Caribbean American Heritage Month is not only a time to celebrate the rich culture, music, food, and traditions of the Caribbean, but also to honor the many contributions our community has made and continues to make in the areas like education, business, public services, the heart, and more. We are grateful to the County Council and to Council Member Lorian Sales for recognizing the significance of this month and for your continued partnership. This proclamation is a meaningful reminder that representation matters and that our voices, our stories, and our heritage are woven in the fabric of this county. On behalf of the Caribbean American Advisory Group, we look forward to working together to ensure all communities, Caribbean and beyond, are seen and heard in this county. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning, and happy Caribbean American Heritage Month.
And now we also have our CAO, Rich Madaleno, who is here on behalf of the county executive, and he will join me in reading the proclamation.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Sales. Rich Madaleno, the Chief Administrative Officer for the Montgomery County Government. My apologies that the county executive could not be with us this morning, but he will be joining the community for this evening's event in the Leggett Executive Office building. So, this is not only Caribbean Heritage Month, American Heritage Month. It is also Immigration Awareness Month, and I want to thank Delegate Wilkins for getting up here and sharing your immigration story. Because I think one of the problems that we have as a society right now is we don't talk about our own immigration stories. We are a country that's loaded with people who came from elsewhere. The vast, vast majority of people came to this country, whether by choice or by chains. But we all have a story, and we need to tell those stories at this moment of why our families came, what they did, how simple it was for my relatives to get on a boat, get to Ellis Island, get through a 7-second check, and wind up in Vineland, New Jersey to start building the American dream. This event is to recognize that effort on the part of so many people, and in this case, the Caribbean community. And they found a great home in Montgomery County and in Maryland. Think about it. Our governor is a descendant of a Jamaican immigrant. Our Attorney General is a descendant of a Jamaican immigrant. Lorianne Sales, our council member, Jamaican immigrant. Yes. Our director of the Office of Community Partnerships, a descendant of an immigrant from Barbados. Okay. We have a community with so many Haitians. What is happening now is so distressful, but it's so important that in Montgomery County we stand together, recognize this community and how diverse we are and how proud we are to celebrate each and every one of our residents each and every day of the year. Thank you very much, Councilmember Sales.
Thank you, Rich. And before we read the proclamation, we just wanted to quickly have everyone introduce themselves, and then we're going to read the proclamation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John McKenzie. I'm the Chief Serving Officer for the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce for the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Moy Stevenson, and I'm with the Caribbean Advisory Group and also the Jamaica Nationals Association. And it's a pleasure to be here today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joan Beckford, CEO of Island Pride, Oasis, Island Pride Jamaican Restaurant, and Island Pride Food Market here in the county. I'm here serving everybody across the board, and whatever the needs are, I'm there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jean Junior Mousset. I'm Haitian, and I'm the president and founder of Caribbean Heritage Collective.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rodrigue Vital. I'm the Caribbean liaison for Montgomery County.
Hi, good morning again, everyone. I'm Delegate Janelle Wilkins. I'm the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland and represent District 20, Jamaican born.
Good morning, Ambassador Anthony Anderson, Jamaica's ambassador to the United States.
Good morning again. I am Venice Mundell Harvey, Chair of the Caribbean American Advisor Group, and also a small business owner of Allstate Insurance Agency here in Montgomery County.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Karen Francis, a member of the Caribbean Advisory Group and a very proud Jamaican living in Montgomery County for over 30 years.
Good morning, and thank you to Councilmember Lorianne Sales. I am Althea Gray McKenzie. I'm the chair of the National Caribbean American Heritage Month Steering Committee. We have a wonderful program on Saturday. That's June 14th, celebrating all of our wonderful cultures. We love to see you. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is BJ Dawkins. I'm a trifecta. I represent the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce, and I also represent HELP, Helping Hands Empowering and Lifting People. Collins Angel. I am a proud Jamaican and a resident of Montgomery County. Yeah.
All right, you ready? Thank you. All right, the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland proclamation. Whereas June marks Caribbean American Heritage Month, a designation officially established in 2006 to celebrate and acknowledge the enduring legacy, culture, and contributions of Caribbean Americans. Their ancestors hailed from a diverse range of nations such as Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Barbados, and other islands across the Caribbean basin. And
whereas during Caribbean Heritage Month, we honor the perseverance and resilience of those who forged a new and proud legacy for future generations here in the United States, reflected by the 13 million Americans who are of Caribbean ancestry. And whereas nearly a third of the state of Maryland's 87,000 Caribbean-born individuals and their children live here in Montgomery County, a number that continues to grow, fostering a stronger sense of community and diversity. And
whereas throughout history, Caribbean immigrants have helped shape key American industries and institutions with contributions exemplified by pioneers such as Kamala Harris, the first United States Vice President of Jamaican descent, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who is of Jamaican ancestry, Attorney General Anthony Brown, whose father was born in Jamaica, Dr. Antonio Novella, the first woman and first Hispanic U.S. Surgeon General, born in Puerto Rico, Colin Powell, the first Black United States Secretary, Secretary of State, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, born to Jamaican parents, Maryland State Delegate Janelle Wilkins, the first Jamaican-born delegate elected to represent Montgomery County in the Maryland General Assembly, and Councilmember Lorianne Sales, who was inaugurated as an at-large member of the Montgomery County Council, representing the first Black woman and Jamaican American elected to this office, also born to Jamaican parents. Their achievements are a source of pride and inspiration for all. And whereas this month offers an opportunity for all residents to join in celebrating Caribbean American Heritage Month, embracing their rich heritage and acknowledging their remarkable contributions.
now, therefore, be it resolved that County Executive Mark Eldridge and the entire Montgomery Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby proclaim this month of June as Caribbean American Heritage Month, presented on this, the 10th day of June in the year 2025, signed by Mark Eldridge, County Executive, and Kate Stewart, Council President.
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you again to everyone who joined us today for recognizing Caribbean American Heritage Month. Thank you to Councilmember Sales. We welcome Ambassador Anderson. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we are so glad you're here in Montgomery County in the great state of Maryland. And thank you to Delegate Wilkins for all she does in our community. We will now move on to general business. I want to let everyone know that our colleague, Councilmember Lukey, is joining us virtually today. Thank you for joining us, Councilmember Lukey. There are no announcements today and no minutes for approval, so we'll move on to agenda item number 1. If council members can resume on the dais, please. The first item, number 1, is action on a resolution to confirm the reappointment of the Inspector General, Megan Davy Lamarzi, if she can come down and join us. Yeah, she's here. Oh, yeah. Great. The term of the Inspector General is 4 years, and Ms. Lamarzi's second term ends this month. Ms. Lamarzi was first appointed to the position of Inspector General in 2019 for a partial term, and then reappointed in 2021 for her first full term. And she is now being considered for appointment for her second full term. Under Ms. Lamarzi's leadership, the Office of the Inspector General has successfully continued its mission to deter and detect fraud, waste, and abuse in county government and county government-funded agencies. She promotes the efficiency and effectiveness of the county-funded programs and operations by providing timely and relevant oversight and analysis and engaging in work that provides opportunities to enhance racial equity and social justice in Montgomery County. Since we don't get to reappoint you every day, I thought I would take this opportunity to highlight some of the achievements of the Office of Inspector General under Ms. Lamarzi's leadership since she was first appointed. Under her leadership, the office has been modernized. It has formalized policies and procedures, implemented automation, and switched all work to electronic formats, initiated comprehensive quality assurance programs. They have opened an audit division that is compliant with government auditing standards in response to mandate to audit all principal departments in county government. She created the Education Oversight Division, which provides oversight to the largest school system in Maryland. And to meet these new mandates and the expectations of this community, the office has grown from 5 full-time employees to 21. Under her leadership, the office has developed tools and procedures to apply a DEIA lens to all planned projects, created RESJ values, and made recommendations and observations in several reports aimed at identifying opportunities to advance RESJ in the county and MCPS programs. She has implemented a formalized, transparent follow-up process to track recommendations and implementation of corrective actions, issued the first ever status report on recommendations in March of 2025, and I just want to say thank you for that as the chair of Government Operations and Fiscal Policy and the Audit Committee. That tracking has been really just incredible over the last few years. Since FY20, the office has issued 81 reports, made over 250 recommendations for improvements, and to date has responded to over 1,600 complaints. Annual contracts with the office have grown considerably. In FY21, the office received 165 complaints, and in FY24, they responded to 430. So, Ms. Lamarzi, thank you for all of your achievements, and I will ask for a motion to reappoint Ms. Lamarzi as the Inspector General of Montgomery County.
So moved.
I have Councilmember Friedson moved, Council Vice President Jawando seconded. Ms. Lamarzi, would you like to say a few words before I call the vote?
Please, I just would like to thank you all again for your confidence and your support of the office. It is so appreciated. I also would like to thank the county executives team, the CAO, the deputy CAO, all the directors, the county employees that we have worked with, the leaders at MCPS, The teachers and the staff at the schools and at central office, they really have been wonderful and responsive. You've heard me say many times, oversight is hard. It is a lot of work. It is challenging. And the reason it works in Montgomery County is everyone here really continues to lean into our values. And we are all here for the same purpose, which is to provide responsible, good governance and transparent public services. I really would like to thank my staff and everyone who has worked in the Office of the Inspector General for the last 6 years. Their talents are humbling, their commitment to our mission, their professionalism, their agility, their integrity is the heart of what we do. And I would not be here and I would not be as successful in representing the work of our office without all of their hard work and their support. And of course, I always want to thank the residents of Montgomery County who have trusted us with their stories, who have come forward to tell us about their observations and their concerns. I hope that we have continued and will continue to serve them very well. It is a great privilege to have a job that is work I believe in, and work that allows me to contribute to my community and to use my gifts and talents in service to others. And I am very grateful for this opportunity. Being Montgomery County's Inspector General is an honor and one that I really look forward to continuing over the next 4 years.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Ms. Lamarzi, for all your work. All those in favor to reappoint Megan Davy Lamarzi as the Inspector General of Montgomery County, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you again for joining us this morning and for all of your work. All right, next, item number 2 on the agenda is we're interviewing for the County Executive's nominee for the Department of Health and Human Services, Chief for Children, Youth, and Family Services. And I think we have Mr. Matalino here who will introduce the executive's nominee, and then we will get into the interview.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Mr. Vice President, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be with you right now. First, I want to thank and congratulate Ms. Lamarzi and congratulate her for her reappointment. We work with Ms. Lamarzi frequently. And she's been a great partner in trying to make sure we have the most efficient county government, and we greatly appreciate that working relationship. With that, you might, after I said that, you might reconsider your vote. I don't know. So boom, boom. So I'm sorry. I know Megan's right there. So we yes. No, she's been a great addition for the county, and we greatly appreciate everything that she does. If I may, this is high school graduation season. 12,708 young people will graduate from all of our high schools, including my son yesterday from BCC, which is where I am wearing the blue and gold tie of the BCC Barons. So if I'm a little tired today, please excuse my the effort, because it was quite the jog up to UMBC and back. But so many of us had to go to UMBC for graduation this year. So I am thrilled to be with you today to introduce Lori Garibay Aquino as our nominee for the Division Chief for Children, Youth, and Families. Lori is a county resident, a Maryland native, having grown up in Anne Arundel County, gone to the College of Notre Dame in the Baltimore area, and then on to so many different professional degrees. I mean, a master's in public health, a master's in sociology, and she's going to finish this fall a doctor in public health at Mercer University in Atlanta. So I was worried that we've been keeping her from her dissertation by giving her all these new responsibilities. So she lives here in Silver Spring. She's got a child at Oakland Terrace. I know her family is here. She came to us with, as you may know, a wealth of experience in a variety of different settings in the nonprofit world and local government world, most recently with the District of Columbia, where she was a division chief working on children, adolescents, and school health. I was impressed with the interview, as the county executive was, with her experience not only in the policy area her commitment to children, youth, and families, but also her experiencing on managing contracts. I mean, she had to oversee the district government's contract with Children's Hospital to monitor and operate the entire school health system in the district school system, which, as you may know, is in the state of change. So she's been with us for almost a year as the deputy director. When we looked around, we thought, and we were impressed with her commitment. We're impressed with her policy experience and her desire to improve our community. And so the county executive recommends her for your nomination. We're thrilled that there are so many people. I think the entire executive team from the Department of Health and Human Services is behind us to show their support for Lori in this nomination. So on behalf of the county executive, we would ask respectfully for your confirmation of Lori Garibay Aquino.
Thank you, Mr. Manalino. And we're also joined by Director of our HHS, Dr. Bridges. Do you have any opening remarks you'd like to make, Dr. Bridges?
Good morning, Madam President, Council Vice President Jawando, and the entire council sitting this morning for Ms. Garibay Aquino's interview. The only thing that I would add to Mr. Manalino's opening remarks is that our Care Bears are in the house.
Yeah.
Why do you think that we call ourselves Care Bears? Because we pride ourselves on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now we have another Care Bear in our midst. We are ready for Lori to come on board to have a permanent place on our leadership team. And I know she's going to do an outstanding job because she represents the Department of Health and Human Services.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Bridges. Ms. Garibay Aquino, I just have a few questions I will start off and ask you and then turn it to my colleagues. First, please describe your education, background, and experience as they relate to planning and supervising activities related to core children, youth, and family services, such as assessment, policy development, education, and quality assurance.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that question. I think I'll just start by saying thank you to all of you for the opportunity to sit in front of you today and interview for the position of Chief of Children, Youth, and Family Services. Thank you to the County Executive for the nomination and to the entire County Executive team. Of course, to Dr. Bridgers for your leadership and support. To my fellow DHHS SLT colleagues who are here to support me as well. Thank you. To the entire CYF team, who I believe is either in the audience or watching today, thank you. And to my own family and close friends who are here to support. I have my wife, my father, and my mother-in-law who's here as well. So thank you to all of you. In terms of my education background and experience, I'm proud to say that I have over 15 years of experience working in and leading programs specific to improving the health and well-being of children, adolescents, and their families. As stated earlier, I received my master's in public health from St. Louis University in St. Louis, Missouri, with a concentration in community health and behavioral science from St. Louis University. I had the opportunity at that time to start my career in public health with the Health Communication Research Laboratory, where I worked on several innovative initiatives that leverage technology and interagency partnerships to increase the reach and effectiveness of health information to our most at-risk communities in the city. From this experience, I grew more interested in the intersection of social determinants of health and health outcomes, so studying socioeconomic factors, community factors, societal norms, and how those impact our health and well-being and how we show up in the world. That led me to get a second master's in sociology from DePaul University in Chicago, and at that time I worked with the Urban Health Initiative at the University of Chicago Medicine School. Here, I worked on the implementation of a community needs assessment for residents on the south side of Chicago and evaluated and led summer programming for at-risk youth on the south side as well. I'm currently in the final home stretch of my doctorate of public health degree with a concentration in diverse populations and health equity once I get some time to finish up that dissertation. Throughout my career, I've had the unique experience of working in diverse sectors, from everywhere to academia, for-profit, where I led the evaluation and assessment research activities for large-scale federal tobacco prevention campaigns, specifically tailored for LGBTQ plus youth, rural youth, and at-risk urban dwelling youth. Prior to coming here to Montgomery County, I worked for over 7 years at the District of Columbia Department of Health. And during my tenure with DC Health, I served in various roles, from starting out as a public health advisor to finishing my term there as the Division Chief of Child, Adolescent, and School Health. During my time at DC Health, I directly contributed to policy development by participating in several interagency collaborative programs focused on improving service delivery models for the provision of mental and behavioral health services inside of schools, and led data analysis projects to evaluate program outcomes and use those findings to make program improvements as needed. And most recently, I've had the opportunity to serve as Deputy Chief, and I'm currently serving as Acting Chief of Children, Youth, and Family Services within DHHS. Overall, my education and professional experiences have equipped me with leadership skills, policy knowledge, and practical insight to serve in this position. And if confirmed, I will bring these skills and knowledge to the role. And I look forward to ongoing communication and collaboration with each of you as we all work together to advance and improve the health and well-being of our children, youth, and families in Montgomery County.
Thank you. My next question is, many critical services in children, youth, and families involve extensive interactions with state agencies and regulations that impact service delivery in the county. Please describe your experience with intergovernmental and interagency collaborations and how you would work with county residents and providers within these frameworks, especially in light of recent budget decisions from the state and policy and funding disruptions from the federal administration.
Thank you for that. So throughout my career, I've worked extensively within intergovernmental and interagency frameworks to support the delivery of vital services for children, youth, and families. Specifically, during my tenure with DC Health, I partnered closely with local agencies such as the Department of Behavioral Health, Children and Family Services, our local education agencies in the district, and the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, to align local level programs with federal and local mandates, ensuring the compliance while advocating for the unique needs of our community. Throughout this work, I led efforts to create and implement data sharing agreements, especially with our education colleagues, and created a case management protocol to ensure seamless and comprehensive wraparound services for our students. Additionally, I have firsthand knowledge of the importance of interagency collaboration to navigate regulatory changes and secure sustainable funding streams. For example, when facing potential budget shortfalls, I worked with community providers and internal stakeholders to adjust service models, find alternative funds, and while maintaining our continuity of care. I also engaged in policy review and feedback processes to help shape more responsive and equitable guidelines. When working with community members and service providers, my approach is centered on equity, transparency, and responsiveness. I believe in actively listening to the lived experiences of our community, especially our youth and our families. This assists in ensuring community voices inform service design, delivery, and policies. As we all know, community members bring firsthand knowledge of their needs, challenges, and strengths. From my experience, listening to the community we serve leads to solutions that are more grounded and more likely to succeed. Considering recent policy and funding disruptions from the state and federal levels, I think it's even more critical to build strong, trust-based relationships, both internally as local government agencies, but also with our community partners. I see opportunity for greater communication and involvement on our end to ensure we are bringing all voices to the table. This includes centering the youth voice and the voice of those community members being targeted by the current federal climate. Now more than ever presents an opportunity for extensive inter and intra-level collaboration, and I'm committed to ensuring that despite external challenges, we remain focused on equitable, high-quality service delivery for all children, youth, and families in our care.
Thank you. As Chief of Children, Youth, and Families, what would your immediate priorities be, and what do you envision the long-term strategic goals for the division?
So I think I've had the unique opportunity for almost a year now to really get an in-depth understanding of our programs and services within CYF. Typically, I would say that would be my first kind of strategy coming into the role, but having that knowledge already in my pocket, my immediate priorities would be first to strengthen interagency and community partnerships. Specifically engaging stakeholders and community partners to ensure transparency, establish shared priorities for the new fiscal year, and ensure each stakeholder is aware of its role within the larger system, and ensure we are working together to reduce any unnecessary duplication of services and reduce any gaps in services that we may see. My second immediate priority, and we are starting to work on this a little bit now within the the division is ensuring continuity of services. So given the vulnerability of many of the populations and communities we care for, we need to have plans and protocols in place to ensure, as best we can, uninterrupted service delivery, especially in the light of potential additional budgetary and policy disruptions. In terms of longer-term strategic goals, I see the opportunity to build a stronger data-informed and outcomes-driven division. This means improving the quality of the data we collect, partnering with our closest stakeholders to create effective and efficient data sharing agreements, and analyzing data not just for compliance, but also to proactively plan our programs, evaluate and assess our programs, improve our services, and most importantly, show our impact back to the community. Ensuring programs produce measurable, equitable outcomes for all children, youth, and families served. I see a great opportunity for innovation and leveraging of technology to build our data infrastructure within the division. My second long-term goal is to strengthen our presence in the community, as I think I've stated, and raise awareness of available services for our children, youth, and families. In my time with the division thus far, one remark that consistently comes to surface is families don't know what services are available for them. We are extremely fortunate in this county to have a wide breadth of services for our residents, specifically our children and our youth. I hope to engage in a greater level of community outreach and engagement to increase awareness, access, and the impact of our services. I'm truly excited about the opportunity to lead this division and see it as a chance to help shape a team that is responsive, inclusive, and forward-thinking. I'm committed to meeting the immediate needs of our youth and families while also strengthening the systems and infrastructure that support their long-term well-being, safety, and health.
Thank you. If appointed to this role, how would you leverage it to address issues of racial equity and social justice?
Thank you again. So if appointed to this role, I would prioritize racial equity and social justice, not just as standalone initiatives, but as guiding principles embedded in every aspect of the work that we do. This includes ensuring consistent reviews of our policies and procedures and service delivery models to identify potential disparities in access, outcomes, and treatment, specifically for our Black, Brown, and historically marginalized families. In addition, I would work with staff and partners to revise policies or protocols that unintentionally reinforce inequities and promote those that are more equitable. This is work the team is currently actively engaging in now as it relates to writing more specific and intentional RFPs and scopes of work. As mentioned earlier, I see an opportunity to improve our data infrastructure, and in doing so, we can accurately use data to uncover and address disparities. This includes ensuring we have a system in place to collect key indicators and analyze disaggregated data by those indicators. Additionally, there must be constant and consistent assessment of our program data and an openness on our end to adjust programs or reallocate resources as needed. Additionally, I would work to continue elevating the community voice through creating ongoing, structured, and meaningful engagement with youth, parents, and community leaders. Specifically, again, those from our most at-risk and underrepresented communities. This includes ensuring community engagement is embedded into division operations at all levels, designing and conducting listening sessions or focus groups, and also reporting back to the community on how their input was used in our programming.
Thank you. My last question before turning it to colleagues is, are there any potential conflicts of interest of which we should be aware?
No, there are not.
Great, terrific. It's my pleasure to turn it over first to Chair of our Health and Human Services Committee, Councilmember Albanaz.
Great. Well, welcome, Ms. Caraballo-Aquino, and thank you so much for your public service, your leadership, and your direction, and welcome to your family. We are thrilled to have them here, and they should be so proud of your work. Our paths have crossed before, and I just am so appreciative when leaders like you choose professions like this, especially in these times of need and challenges. So I've had the opportunity to work with three of your predecessors, going back to Ms. Kate Garvey. All have brought their own different strengths and had to address the times that they faced. And you will certainly not have your shortage of challenges in the immediate future, especially over the next few years. This is a very front-facing position because you are tasked with being a bridge builder, bringing communities together, which you talked about in your opening comments. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about what strategies you would like to use or strategies you've seen be successful in the past and bringing together those public, private, nonprofit organizations who all have an important role to play in this space, but sometimes are not aware of each other's work or could better leverage it?
Thank you for that question. I would say in my experience, what has worked best is really open and honest communication. So bringing people to the table face to face, talking about what our unique needs and challenges are, and finding common ground. That may not always be very easy. It may take some time. It may take relationship building. But I think once folks have the opportunity to sit down in front of their interagency partner or community partner, we find that we have more things in common than we do that we don't have in common, right? We want to improve the well-being of our children. We may have different ways to go about that. We may have different priorities, but at the end of the day, it's our job to keep the ball moving. And we think about all of the children and families in our care. And I think that is kind of the guiding principle in terms of having open and honest communication and also setting goals and strategy building to forge a future ahead.
I appreciate that. And I can't wait to work with you on that. So, because there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can either use the current construct of boards and commissions that are convening agencies for people to get together, or during these very difficult times, we may have to create some new ones to bring folks together.
Thank you for that. And, I think our challenge also will be to get those voices that don't come to the boards and commissions, and getting those communities that are siloed and don't feel like they can interact with government or interact with, our local agencies. And I feel like that's where we'll see a lot of the change when we get into the communities and hear those voices that aren't typically at the table.
Couldn't agree more, which leads me to my second and final question, because I know a lot of colleagues are probably in the queue. You mentioned, and I so appreciate you uplifting the need for us to meet communities where they are, to make them aware of our programs and services and all that we can offer them. Obviously, that's become even much more difficult in the last few months and will be for the foreseeable future. Could you again talk about some of the strategies maybe you've seen be effective in the past? So I'm thinking of Por Nuestra Salud y Bienestar, where we did a full court press through the incredible leadership of Health and Human Services, along with our Latino Health Initiative, to reach deep, deep, deep into communities. Do you envision doing something similar? And can you give some examples of what you have in mind?
Yeah, for sure. I think now more than ever, what we're seeing is that some of our community members may not be as comfortable coming into our doors. They may not be as comfortable coming in and applying for services. And models that I've seen in the past that work are really having those strong connections with our forward-facing community partners who are out in the neighborhoods, who know the residents, who know families by their first name basis or go to their graduations. And when we can establish that open communication with those forward-facing community members and ensure that, those individuals in the community still know that our services are here, still know that we're here to serve them, that's when we kind of see the best collaboration. So totally understanding that we as a county agency may be a little intimidating to individuals, but working with our community partners closely to ensure that our work and services are still being done.
Thank you. And my final note is just a comment, which I want to follow up with you on as well. And you mentioned again in your opening comments the need for data collection, because sometimes and too often our organizations are flying more blind than they should be. There is now a well-established best practice within county government and our Office of Food System Resilience that is doing an outstanding job of collecting data in multiple areas and presenting that in a way that's helpful not just to government agencies, but our community-based organizations as well. So I would encourage you to consider or look at that model specifically. It's been very helpful to the council, and I think it presents more opportunities for us to collaborate together. But thank you so much. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Now I have Council Vice President Jawanda.
Thank you very much, and glad I got to go after Chair Alvarez, who's also a member of my committee as on the Education and Culture Committee. Congratulations in advance. Really happy to see you in this role. Many of us have had the opportunity to interact with you in joint committees or over the last year since you've been in the previous role. So I think it is unique and really, really advantageous to us that you can hit the ground running. You don't have to spend that first 6 months plus to get to know what's going on. So really happy for you. Hello to your family, and congratulations to them as well. So I want to talk just a question or two about the work with our school system. You mentioned, and I really appreciated it, you talked about you had experience with data sharing agreements in DCPS. One of the things we are constantly talking about here in every budget and all the committee sessions we have on ENC, and you've been a part of some of these joint committees with HHS, is how do we, because wherever we find our kids, we need to get them what they need. And whether it's coming from MCPS or whether it's coming from HHS or a community partner, our job is to find those gaps and to make sure our children, youth, and families have what they need. That being said, there are financial and coordination reasons and expertise that it might make more sense sometimes to have programs come from one entity or the other, and that collaboration and data sharing becomes even more important. So can you talk about, based on, you have a child in the school system and you've been here for a year, you've worked with school systems in other jurisdictions, you've written about school nurses, I know that was some of your published work. So talk to me about what you think we need to do to take the next iteration of meeting the needs of our students in collaboration with our school systems in any areas that you think it's required.
Thank you for that question. I think it's kind of twofold, right? So it's creating an infrastructure in place where we are sharing data about maybe what students are in our programs. The school system is also sharing data about their students, maybe attendance, who didn't show up. We're sharing grade level information, all in a secure way that, takes into account FERPA and HIPAA, of course. But then we're actually meeting and having working sessions with our MCPS colleagues, right? We're bringing students to the forefront that they may see maybe at risk or have concerns with. We're bringing our students to the forefront and saying, we're seeing the student and their family and our services. How are they doing in school? I really think it's a collaborative way. So it's building the infrastructure in place to share data that's safe, but it's also knowing why we're sharing the data. It's knowing what we're looking at and what the purpose of that is. And having those kind of intense scheduled sessions where we come together as partners and really do more of the working in terms of analyzing the data and doing case management and bringing other players to the meeting as needed as well.
I appreciate that. I think that's a big challenge, but also big opportunity for us going forward. And I know some of that work has begun. We do it already in the child care and the early care and education space. We need to do more, but after school, out of school time, we had a discussion about that you were at recently. The last part I'll just say is you have a dream team. Dr. Bridges talked about Care Bears. I like that. That was one of my favorite shows growing up, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. But you have, whether it's Dr. Davis or all the doctors back there that you have on your team, I think we're at a unique moment to really ramp up that collaboration, and I appreciate Dr. Bridges and the county executive putting you forward, and congratulations in advance. You have my support. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, I have to say that, or Mr. Vice President, I'm sorry. The county executive has made it very clear, as have all of you, about the need to collaborate with MCPS. I have to say Dr. Bridgers is already working very hard with Dr. Taylor. We have set up meetings with the new team that's coming over at MCPS. And as you well know, his new team isn't even in place yet. Some of those people still have to join the system. So we are moving aggressively to build the relationships between the new MCPS leadership team and the team at HHS, as well as around county government, because obviously a bunch of different departments, recreation, libraries, the police, all play a role in the day-to-day operations of the school system. And we want to make that as seamless and efficient as possible so that we're delivering the best outcomes for the children and families of our community.
Thank you. Councilmember Natalie Fanning-Gonzalez.
Thank you. Excuse my voice. I'm a little sick. Ms. Garibay Aquino, it's great to see you here. I look forward to working with you. but I have a lot of high expectations for you. I do a lot of work with NCPS in youth, as a team from HHS knows. From fentanyl, now DUIs, and I made this beautiful flyer that has been highly effective because I cannot wait for you guys to get it together. And sometimes I get frustrated because when I ask for something, it should be, and when I speak up, it's because I'm done. I really need action. And it gets frustrated when I don't see the urgency from the other side. So I made that flyer on the DUI. If you haven't seen it, I'll send it to you. Because I cannot just wait for more meetings and more things to happen when I know the urgency is there. There's a meeting happening with MCPS this week. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to say, I'll tell you offline. And I found out about that meeting relating to youth last week at a civic association meeting that I went. I go to a lot of meetings. And although it's MCPS related meeting, it's the type of meeting that you should be involved in, that you should be completely on board, because it involves youth who are vulnerable, who are at risk. And and the communication from MCPS about this particular meeting that is happening in 2 days from now has been pretty bad. And I had a conversation with the leadership of MCPS about it this past weekend. And I'm saying all this to you so you can understand that your job is not to be behind the desk. Your job is to be out there fighting for our kids, humanizing our children who are the most vulnerable. If you have been with me in this meeting that I had last week, I'm telling you, I left that meeting almost crying from the way that people in the community were describing our most vulnerable children. You need to understand that. It doesn't come from reports. It doesn't come from a classroom. It comes from being in the ground. So, get ready to hear from me. I am your partner. I'm not your friend. I am your partner. I know a lot of people have very few friends just because that's the way I work. I'm looking forward to a strong partnership, not to check the box, to do the work. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you very much to my colleagues for their questions, and I'm really appreciating this conversation and learning more about you, and having read your resume and background, very impressive, and to know that you still have to, do your dissertation? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck to your family finding time to do all of that. And just want to pick up on the theme of how difficult this particular job is, which is only becoming even more difficult as our support networks and coordination with the state and federal partners are at risk. And the state partners, I only say that because of funding from the federal government. No risk of any changes at the state level regard to policy making. But as we know, we're in very tenuous times. How do you see this position helping our most vulnerable children and families navigate waters that are not quite clear, but who need us probably more now than ever?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think with NCYF, we have a very distinct position. We're able to kind of touch every family member at every point of the life cycle. What we can do as a division, I think, is being open to being able to change our focus. So if we see that there are things that our community needs that we may not focus on specifically, then we have the ability and flexibility to turn and provide the services that are needed. We've also, in coordination with Dr. Bridgers and our other chiefs within the division or within the department, have been keeping kind of an ear on the pulse on the ground. So we have kind of weekly check-ins with our teams, who are our frontline staff, to see what they're hearing, to see if there are any kind of barriers to individuals accessing our services, and keeping kind of a pulse on. And if we're seeing that we need to switch gears, then being open and able to do that in a timely way. So I think it's being responsive, being open, and also kind of keeping that line of communication open with our staff, but also the community as well.
I think that's exactly right. I think as you're hearing from colleagues, this role in the department work and your colleagues, their work is so important, because if it's come to your radar, it has most certainly come to our radar as well. And we want to make sure that it is being addressed and that our families and youth have the support that they need. And as we see the ever-changing federal landscape, nimble is important. And being able to provide those services however we might need to adapt to do so will be critical. And you will have me, I assume the council, but you'll have us as partners to make those regulatory or legal changes necessary that we can to help our families most in need. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sales.
All right. Thank you. Good to see you again. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me prior to this full council meeting. And just to follow up on your doctoral research, I'm glad to see that's ongoing, which explores how perceptions of identity and socioeconomic status influence the mental and behavioral health of multicultural adolescents. How can these findings be used to assess existing children, youth, and families programs designed to enhance outcomes for our Black and Brown youth in Montgomery County? Additionally, how might this analysis inform the restructuring of these programs to address any currently and future unmet needs?
Thank you for that question. So I think in the data analysis and work that I'm doing as part of my dissertation, it's really bringing to light kind of what we know to be the case, right? It's just that the data is now showing us that our children and our youth, especially our most vulnerable youth, have a lot of behavioral issues. They're dealing with suicidal thoughts. There are a lot of things happening in the media that they're dealing with, and that is impacting kind of how they show up in the world, but also their mental and physical health status. So luckily, a lot of the services and programs that we have within CYF and within the department as a whole does address those. But I think what the data can show us is like, maybe we need to be a little bit more proactive and specific about which populations of youth we're going after, to ensure that we're serving those who are most at need, not only necessarily those that may fall into, or that we may get a referral for, but being a little bit more proactive at reaching those youth who don't come to school or don't stay after school, and ensuring that those services are offered to them as well. I think I may have missed the second part of your question.
Oh, yes. And the second part was just, how will your analysis inform any unmet needs? We spend millions of dollars on children, youth, and family programs, contracts, and it's hard to evaluate the effectiveness of said contracts. And so I want to ensure that what's in existence is working. And if it's not working, get rid of it and replace it with something that will work and meet the needs. We know that Black and Brown youth who are underserved can grow up to be adults who are have more interactions with our public safety and have lower socioeconomic status. So what are we doing now with children, youth, and family programs to inform better outcomes for our youth, to ensure that they're financially sufficient and have financial literacy and a more well-rounded outlook on life as they matriculate through our programs in our community before they graduate from high school?
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about that in different spaces and different pieces. So I think part of it is, again, bringing everyone to the table. And I know a lot of this work is happening now with our youth safety and resilience initiatives, our out of school time.
Collaboration Council.
Bringing
a lot of
all the different
partners.
players,
Yeah.
rec, whoever, because I mean, there are so many different ways and so many people who interact with our youth.
Yes.
And it's coming together, one, to be a little bit more mindful and coming together to be more intent about the services that we're offering. Making sure that we're not competing for students to be in our program because the same 10 students are always the ones that want to participate, which is totally fine. But it's getting those students, again, who don't show up, who don't come to us. And it's working together as agencies and as community partners to address that in a more systemic and kind of way, but also taking that data and making sure that we're tracking outcomes of our students, that we're looking at MCPS, at the absenteeism rate and the testing rates and things like that.
Yes, okay, that's what I'm hoping. We're going to have more interaction with MCPS and ensuring that the programs that we're investing the millions of dollars in are showing outcomes when students graduate. We have been dealing with a widening learning gap, achievement gap, opportunity gap. It gets a different name, but it's a gap, and it's Black and brown students who are always at the bottom. And so if we have programs that are going to help improve outcomes regarding their math and reading scores, and also truancy, keeping that low, those are the programs that I have no problem fighting to invest money into. But if it's not ensuring great outcomes in those areas for our Black and brown youth, then we need to reshift our resources to address those issues.
Yeah, and I would add that I think another piece of that as well is ensuring that those programs are culturally appropriate, that they're equitable. We know that one program that works for one population isn't going to work for another because there's different priorities, different culture there. So I think a part of that too is working with our colleagues to determine what types of programs do we need, who do we want to specifically tailor programs to, and go about it that way as well.
Yeah, how we're looking at baseline data and evaluating the long-term success of these programs. Did you want to say something, Dr. Burgess?
Councilmember Sells, good morning. Lori just aptly responded. Looking at program efficacy and evaluating data. I mean, that's paramount. So that's what we're doing now with the agency. She's been doing that as the acting chief of our children, youth, and families, and we will expand on that. Part of that is a response to our deepening our community connection, which is part of our strategic roadmap. So she is following on that continuum and will continue to strengthen that response.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Malcolm.
Thank you. When you're this late in the queue, you've already answered so many of the questions. So I don't have a question. I just want to lift up a couple things that you said, and one is the issue of, we have so many great services in Montgomery County, and not everyone, most people don't even know about them. And so when we have kids and families who understand the system and know what we have, and these kids really win the lottery in terms of the services that they provide. But there are so many kids that don't even have any idea of the services or how to go about getting them. And in our one-on-one conversation, you really talked about meeting students where they are, meeting children and families where they are. And so I just really appreciate that. And I think that that's something that the whole team has done. And in terms of working with our community partners, the front-facing organizations, these are the people, the organizations who know the families by name, they know their history, they know their from generations. So I really appreciate your commitment to working with our community partners and understanding the wealth of knowledge that they have and working with our residents. So I appreciate that. And just one last thing, in terms of your dissertation, the best dissertation is a done dissertation. So we're all behind you on that one.
Thank you.
So thank you. I look forward to voting for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll turn to our colleague now who's virtual today, Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you for the work you've done thus far and the work you have yet to do. It was a pleasure, Lori, to be able to speak to you about your work, about your prior work, and about your vision for the future of children, youth, and families. And my takeaways from that are that you are a people person and a data person, and those are the two things that are absolutely most critical for success in the role within the division that you will be leading in a permanent way. I also believe you're coming at this work with a team mentality, which is to say no one program, no one person, no one thing is solving all the problems. And everyone has to be better at less turf guarding of their particular contract or program or nuanced thing, and say, how do we do the best we can for the whole? You know, for example, rec, a lot of times when we think about the rec department and things that we're able to do to provide services and connections for our youth within rec, we think about sports first, but rec is so much more than just sports. You know, our rec centers have musical instruments, they have maker spaces, they have other things there, and I think sometimes the folks who may need those things don't always appreciate that those are the other services that are available there. I note that being able to some of the questions that my colleagues were answering or asking that you answered, and as you and I spoke about this in terms of data analysis, multifactorial analysis critical in this particular arena, because there's no one-to-one corollaries in a lot of this type of work. And it's also hard to use data to show what didn't happen because of something, what was prevented. It's hard to often quantify in a data way. But what we can show are positive outcomes for those who have engaged and the absence of other things. So I'm just incredibly appreciative that you're here and willing to stick this out and continue on with your leadership. And I look forward to collaborating with you further.
Thank you.
Councilmember Katz?
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you for applying and for doing this job. We had a very nice conversation. I guess it was by Zoom anymore. I used to say it was in my office, but we certainly enjoyed meeting with you. You know, we hear so many times it takes a village to raise a child, and it does. I think right now, if we certainly need to make certain that all communities from all various backgrounds come together to protect each other's community, and that becomes so very necessary. One of the, your department has done a great job for many years, and I was reminded that Dr. Bridgers and Councilmember Lukey and I attended fairly recently the truancy prevention program from the State's Attorney's Office. And it reminds us that all departments need to work together. I think it was 100 plus. I think it was 116 students from schools across the Montgomery County came to the circuit court. This was not the first time that, I think it was the biggest they've ever had, but it wasn't the first time they've had it. But it brought together students who were having issues. And John McCarthy and others spoke. And it reminds us that the students themselves, they got mentors, they got a prize for getting themselves back on track. As John mentioned many times, you know, if you show up to school, you start to enjoy school, you have a better outcome from that. But what we need to make certain that we are doing is that each department, and Dr. Bridgers is certainly aware of this as well, that each department works together to make certain that our children, and it's our children, we have got to figure out a way for them to get on, those who are in need of assistance, how we can get them assistance. And the families themselves, and I'll end on this, the families themselves were so proud. They all wanted pictures with their students. And I have a feeling there was a time for that student that they weren't as proud of them. that they, you know, it was easier staying home than going to school. But I think when we all work together, and it's MCPS, and they're certainly at that program as well, that when we all work together, we can get a student who might not be as successful as they could have been back on track to be successful. And we are reminded because of the mentors that a community cares about them. I appreciate it, and I look forward to voting for you. Thank you.
Councilmember Mink?
In an effort to just be additive, I'll just say that I think that your focus on increased effective collaboration, on reaching deeper and ever deeper into our communities, and your focus on data collection are all going to have been and will continue to serve this county very, very well. So very glad that you have been here and that you're going to continue to be here. And I'll note also that the Care Bear analogy, for those who don't know, in protest culture, the Care Bear is the role of a person who is there to provide for people's basic needs: food, water, some basic medical care, not your kind of like medic rapid response, but they are there to ensure that everyone is safe and everyone is welcome, and they are vital for especially vulnerable communities and making sure that everyone knows that they are going to be safe and protected and able to fully participate. And so I think that's a really apt metaphor for today, and especially with the times that we're facing ahead. We're glad to have you on board. Thank you.
Great. Well, I think that was everyone. So thank you so much for being here today, for answering our questions, for doing the work that you have been doing, and taking on this new role and being willing to do that. And I do want to thank the HHS entire family for joining and being supportive at this time, and for your family for joining us as well. We look forward to having you as the new head of this division. And again, just thank you so much for your time. Dr. Bridges, Mr. Madaleno, thank you very much. And we're done with today's interview.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, now we will move on to item 3 on today's agenda, and that's another set of interviews. And this is for the Planning Board. And we had an impressive pool of applicants. And with us today, we have Ms. Elliott, Ms. Pediment, Mr. Schlichting, to interview for upcoming vacancies on the board. As they're coming down and getting settled, I will say we know that Ms. Pediment has currently serves on the board, and her first term is coming to an end this month. And thank you all for your interest in serving on this important body. Once you get settled, I'm going to ask a few questions and then open it up to my colleagues. We're going to start with Ms. Elliott and then go down the list here. Great. And so the first question I have that we'll start with Ms. Elliott is, what are your relevant skills and experience related to the work of the Planning Board? And you can just push your button right in front of you. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Stewart, and thank you for the rest of the council for having me here this morning. I'd love to talk about planning, and so this is a great question to start with. My relevant skills and experience come from both the public sector and the private sector. I bring nearly 20 years of experience in urban planning, land use, and zoning across both of these spectrums. And my background includes deep expertise in development review, regulatory compliance, community engagement, and master planning, all of which align closely with the work of the Planning Board. Presently, I am the Director of Planning Services at the law firm of Holland & Knight. Our development is it is in our applications that are filed, our work, everything is related to the District of Columbia. I manage those developer applications for planned unit developments, zoning map amendments, variances, special exceptions, campus plans, basically anything that requires a zoning act. And I support our clients through the entitlement and permitting process. A large part of my position is to conduct a racial equity analysis with each of our applications that are heard by the Zoning Commission. This is a recent requirement that was put in place after our comprehensive plan was revised in 2021, where now we review the comprehensive plan through a racial equity lens, and that is very similar to what you all are doing here in the county as well. And so that analysis is related to land use, transportation, housing, all of those elements in the comprehensive plan, and essentially piecing those together with the actual project or the act itself, and identifying how it advances racial equity for the District of Columbia. Prior to that, all of my experience was in the public sector. So I was working with the DC Office of Planning as a development review specialist. I was there for 10 years where I evaluated complex development proposals for consistency with the comprehensive plan, small area plans, the zoning regulations, and of course any other zoning policies, district policies, or mayoral initiatives. And I, in that role, provided regular testimony to the Zoning Commission as well as the Board of Zoning Adjustment. I also participated in public planning processes in that role for small area plans or other planning studies as the development review expert, just sort of making sure that the regulatory feasibility did not conflict with community priorities. And I would coordinate public engagement opportunities to gather community input or address stakeholder concerns. I was fortunate enough that I was there when DC was rewriting their zoning regulations, and so I also had a part in that rewrite and part of the structure of the new zoning regulations and some of the newer regulations that were incorporated into that rewrite. Prior to the DC Office of Planning, I'm not sure how far you want to go back, but I was a planner also in a smaller community called the town of Herndon. For them, I also worked on small area plans for the metro stop that they were getting, as well as a downtown, and I managed the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee. We do like to cycle every now and then, so it's nice to incorporate that into work. And I also have experience as a suburban planner from when I lived in Arizona. I grew up in Arizona, and the city that I worked for was just east of Phoenix, a little suburban city called Mesa. And I worked in several capacities for that jurisdiction that included even code compliance and senior planner level positions. So that was really the job that made me a jack of all trades, was working there. So the combination of my experience I apologize, demonstrates my broad and in-depth qualifications for planning, zoning, and community-focused development. And my public and private sector perspective, coupled with technical expertise, strategic insight, make me well prepared to contribute to the Planning Board's responsibilities in shaping equitable and sustainable growth. So that is my experience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Pedman?
Good morning, Council President, Vice President, and members of the Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today and for the chance to continue serving Montgomery County. I'm a professional civil engineer with over 40 years in public service, and I have spent most of my career right here in Montgomery County. My work has always centered around land use, infrastructure, permitting, planning, and public service. These areas are at the heart of what the Planning Board does, and I have had the privilege of leading in all of them. Currently, I serve as Vice Chair of Montgomery County Planning Board for the second term. In this role, I have helped guide the county on issues such as equitable growth, master planning, housing affordability, and environmental sustainability. It is a responsibility that I take seriously, especially knowing the long-term impact of every decision we make. Prior to this, I served as the director of the Department of Permitting Services, where I led a major modernization effort that included moving to a cloud-based permitting platform, improving transparencies, and establishing a centralized customer support and outreach division to better assist both residents and the business community. This improvement helped create a more responsive, streamlined, and equitable process that better serves everyone, from small homeowners to large developers. Earlier in my career, I served as Deputy Director of Administration of Montgomery Parks. I managed over $170 million in capital projects and led team focused on delivering high-quality, inclusive parks in every corner of the county. I emphasize sustainability, accessibility, and equity, especially for historically underserved communities like Long Branch and East County. Before that, I worked for Montgomery County Department of Transportation, County Office of Management and Budget, and Maryland State Highway Administration as a bridge engineer. What sets me apart is my cross-cutting experience from planning to permitting to capital implementation. I have led large departments, improved systems, delivered results, and worked with every sector of our county. I know our residents and how our county works. I know their needs and how to get there. And I am able to transform a vision to a reality, like a master plan. It would be an honor to continue bringing that experience, leadership, and deep commitment to public service to Planning Board again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schicklting?
Good morning, President Stewart.
Oh,
Vice
your mic.
President.
Thanks.
Good morning, President Stewart, Vice President Joando, and members of the council. I am honored to be here to interview for this prestigious position within the awesome county of Montgomery. I have an undergraduate degree from the University of Virginia in architecture. I spent 3 years in New York City working for an architecture firm. Went back to grad school to the University of North Carolina for an MBA with a concentration in real estate and urban planning. From 1986 until 2012, I worked in real estate development, working primarily regionally in the DC region, but also nationally for a while. Mostly mixed-use urban projects, but a few suburban projects as well. While I was in my development career, I became very active in the Gaithersburg community, and I was appointed to the Planning Commission in 1995 and was on the Planning Commission for 6 years until 2001. The last 2 years I served as chair. I was then elected to the City Council in 2001 and served on the City Council under the leadership of Mayor, now Council Member Cindy Katz. From 2001 till 2007. In 2012, I was appointed the Director of Planning and Code Administration for the City of Gaithersburg and served in that position until last August. I oversaw the Planning Division as well as permits and inspections and neighborhood services. My staff also staffed the Planning Commission, the Board of Appeals, and the Historic District Commission. So I believe I have a pretty well-rounded background in both real estate, in both the private sector and the public sector, and I would be excited to take on this new role from Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question will start with Ms. Pedwin. Can you elaborate specifically with respect to the board's role in the approval of development applications, the drafting of master plans, and the development of land use and zoning policies?
Sure, and thank you for asking that question. The Planning Board serves both as decision maker and also as an advisor to the County Council. On one hand, the Planning Board is the final authority on development applications like site plans and subdivisions, and on the other hand, we are your advisors, providing you with policy recommendations on zoning, master plans, and development regulations. When it comes to development applications, our job is to make sure that projects align with approved zoning and with the county's master plan. But just as important is our responsibility to reflect the vision and value of the county, especially as it is articulated in Thrive 2050. That means evaluating each proposal not only for compliance, but also for its contributions to housing diversity, environmental sustainability, public infrastructure, and community character. In terms of master plans and zoning policy, I have been directly involved in reviewing, updating, and recommending plans to you that shape the county's growth. These plans address more than land use. They also touch on equity, access, transportation, climate resilience, and public health. And we don't do this in vacuum. Community engagement is an essential part of the process. We hold public hearing, conduct our outreach, and truly listen to our residents. My background in permitting and capital projects bring a practical lens to the process. I understand how a policy will be interpreted, implemented, and enforced, and how it will affect the people and communities it touches.
Thank you. Mr. Schulten?
Thank you. I do believe the board's role is critical in approving development applications, drafting master plans, and development land use and zoning policies. I believe that all of these three things need to be done after careful consideration of the professional staff's recommendation, public participation, and of course the policies from this council. Master plans are critical in setting the pattern and pace for the county, and in evaluating master plans, I would use the same criteria. Development land use and zoning policy through the master plan is most notably, I have been following the good guidance of Thrive Montgomery, and I believe that is a critical tool that needs to be implemented carefully and considerably. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Elliott.
Thank you for the question. In Montgomery County, the Planning Board serves an important role in implementing the land use vision that the City Council hopes to set, and in this case through the adoption of Thrive 2050, and also master plans and zoning policies. The board's work directly supports that vision through what I see as three primary responsibilities. The first is the review and approval of development applications. The Planning Board is the final authority on a variety of regulatory applications, including site plans, preliminary plans, and subdivision plats. In reviewing these proposals, the board ensures consistency with adopted master and sector plans, compliance with zoning and subdivision regulations, and alignment with county goals that are centered around housing, infrastructure, environmental protection, transportation, urban design, and of course, all through the comprehensive plan of Thrive 2050. These decisions are made with public transparency, and they incorporate both technical review and community input. The the Planning Board has the authority to make final decisions on these applications, although their decisions can be transmitted to the City Council for informational purposes. And the council tends to be more involved on broader policy decisions like master plan approvals, major zoning amendments, and similar larger scale issues. But regardless, we are partners in the process, and we're all working together for the betterment of Montgomery County. Another way that the board supports the vision of the county is through the master planning process. So while the planning department staff lead the drafting of master plans, which is very important, and they are a very talented staff, the board sets the direction and priorities for each planning effort with a focus on equity, livability, and sustainability. And throughout this process, the board engages closely with stakeholders and community members to ensure the final plan reflects a shared vision. The board then transmits the plan to council with formal recommendations for adoption. And as I've stated, this is a collaborative effort. It ensures that planning decisions are not only visionary, but also implementable, and that they represent the people who live in the county. And finally, shaping land use and zoning policy is another way that the board supports the county. The board initiates and advises on zoning text amendments and weighs in on zoning map amendments as they come before the council. The work is approached with a focus on ensuring that zoning tools remain current, flexible, and aligned with the county's policy priorities, whether it's increasing housing opportunities, fostering economic development, or advancing environmental goals. A racial equity lens is applied to all of these land use recommendations, which is essential. So in all of these roles, the Planning Board works in partnership with Council to help deliver on shared goals for smart growth, community well-being, and inclusive economic development. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Our third question, Mr. Schlichting, we'll start with you, is, in your opinion, what are the most critical issues the board faces, and how will you contribute to the discussion of those issues?
I believe the most critical issues facing the board are also the most critical issues, or some of the most critical issues facing the county, which I would rate to be affordable housing, retaining employment, and being competitive in the region. I do believe that the implementation of Thrive Montgomery 2050 is key to tackling each of those issues in a meaningful way. I think guiding the county's land use to support these critical county issues are a very important role that the Planning Board plays. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Elliott?
Thank you for the question. So I see that the next generation of planning decisions will shape not only the built environment, but also the daily lives and opportunities available to the residents of Montgomery County. And there are several critical challenges ahead for the Planning Board. And I believe my experience and perspective position me to contribute meaningfully to these discussions. So first of all, I would start with housing affordability, diversity, and attainability. Montgomery County continues to experience a housing supply gap, particularly for households earning below the area median income. And it was confirmed not long ago that since 2010, about 50% of renter households in the county have spent over 30% of their income on housing, and a significant share actually spends over 50%. And so affordability is very important with where we're at, and then finding ways to creatively include more housing, but also respecting the character of neighborhoods, and, doing it in a sensitive way. There have been efforts such as the Attainable Housing Strategies Initiative, which aim to increase the diversity of housing types. And I know that there has been some discussions about that, and we continue to need to have discussions about how housing can be more attainable, and where these different housing types can be included, and find ways to create more missing middle forms of single family homes. And then in addition, there was a rent stabilization measure that went into effect in 2024. So Montgomery County has made strides. There's been a good effort towards housing and housing affordability, but there's certainly more that needs to be done. I have worked extensively on zoning and entitlement processes in Washington, D.C., including its inclusionary zoning and affordable housing initiatives. So I do understand how to create the regulatory flexibility that's needed to deliver a broader range of housing types. And by regulatory flexibility, I mean, adjusting development standards such as like minimum lot sizes or height limitations, setback requirements, or use restrictions that can often limit the form of diverse housing types. My experience working on inclusionary zoning, planned unit developments, and zoning map amendments has taught me how to craft policies and entitlements that encourage a mix of housing types that include duplexes, triplexes, accessory dwelling units, or smaller multifamily buildings. And I also understand how to balance these changes with community input, infrastructure capacity, and design standards that would ensure new housing is context sensitive, equitable, and financially viable. One more piece to that. If I could read my own notes. I also bring experience facilitating complex projects that increase housing capacity while respecting the neighborhood context. And so I would encourage, zoning tools that expand housing opportunities near transit, jobs, and amenities that do not deepen some of those existing inequities. So it's more of a holistic approach to housing and affordable housing, and how to reach the people that need that housing. The second issue that I think we need to focus on is centering equity and land use decision making, and Montgomery County is already doing that, and has made commendable progress in embedding racial and social equity into its planning processes. I would contribute to this effort by continuing to evaluate projects and policies through this racial equity lens, and add, some understanding as to some of the other flexibilities that we could incorporate. I believe that the community trust is earned by meeting people where they are, making data transparent and accessible, and amplifying underrepresented voices in planning and zoning decisions. The third way I think, the third issue I think we need to focus on is balancing growth with infrastructure and environmental capacity. So growth must be aligned with investments in infrastructure, particularly schools, transportation, parks, and climate resilience. Efforts like the Climate Action Plan, which targets net zero emissions by 2035, and strategic planning around transit corridors, such as the Purple Line, reflect the county's intent to grow sustainably. Additionally, the agricultural reserve preserves over 110,000 acres of farmland supporting ecological, economic, and cultural goals. And so my background coordinating across agencies and stakeholders has taught me the importance of integrated planning. I've led projects that balance development goals with transportation access, stormwater management, and public space improvements. So it's a cross-agency approach in making sure that projects meet the specific goals. And I would bring that systems level thinking to the board's deliberations, ensuring that growth is managed responsibly and equitably. I'm sorry, I have two more. And just so that, we're keeping track of where I'm at. Modernizing and clarifying the zoning framework is another thing that I think the planning board should be focusing on. Montgomery County's zoning framework must continue to adapt to reflect evolving needs, such as remote work trends, infrastructure upgrades, and changing household preferences. Modern zoning should support a range of uses while remaining understandable and accessible. So the regulations that work today can always be improved to work better tomorrow, and we need to keep an eye on that as we're reviewing projects and developing for the future. And finally, I think I said finally, restoring and maintaining the public trust. Public trust is the foundation of effective planning. The planning board must operate with transparency, consistency, and humility to rebuild and sustain that trust. I'm known for my collaborative approach and clear communication. I've worked with communities skeptical of planning efforts, and I've helped facilitate respectful, productive engagement. I would bring a steady, ethical, and thoughtful presence to the board and would be committed to open dialogue and long-term relationship building. That completes my response. Thank you for your time on that.
Thank you. Ms. Pedoin, you're next. And the question was, what are the most critical issues the board faces, and how will you contribute to the discussion of those issues?
Excellent question. Affordable housing is a pressing issue not only across the nation, but right here at home. Yet it is not our only challenge. We also face the complex of finding balance between growth and infrastructure, affordability and sustainability, and the needs of today's residents and those of future generations. Thrive 2050 and our adopted master plans lay out a clear vision for resilient, walkable, and inclusive communities. Implementing the vision requires deliberate, informed decision-making. We must promote development in the right place. Near transit with a mix of users and with a range of housing type and price points via zoning reform. We must also create a regulatory environment that is welcoming to development while maintaining high standards and accountability. But housing alone is not enough. Infrastructure must keep pace. That means schools, parks, water and sewer, roads and transit system must be planned and funded for as part of any major growth. I believe one of our risks could be placing too much burden on individual projects without considering scale, time, and feasibility. If we are not careful, that approach can make housing more expensive and delay improvements that our communities really need. That's why I support the newly formed infrastructure task force that you approved. I'm hoping that it explores new, creative, and more equitable ways to fund infrastructure. I would also like to see more partnerships between government, private developers, and nonprofits. With over 40 years of experience, including direct involvement in both policy and implementation, I understand what is realistic what causes delays, and what can be streamlined to better serve the public. When I was appointed to this position 2 years ago, I was the only one among the 5 commissioners with extensive prior knowledge of Montgomery County government and also the commission. That experience quickly proved to be a valuable asset, and I remain committed to applying it to the future challenges. Most importantly, I bring a collaborative approach, bringing the perspectives of long residents and new generations who may live, work, and commute differently.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This next question, we'll start again with Ms. Elliott, and I think you referenced much of this in your opening comments. In your opinion, what role does the Planning Board play in ensuring that a commitment to racial equity and social justice guides the work of the Planning and Parks Department? How would your work to support this effort and further advance and enhance equity efforts?
Thank you for the question. The Planning Board plays a vital role in ensuring that a commitment to racial equity and social justice is not just aspirational, but is embedded in every aspect of land use, transportation, and parks planning. As a policymaking and oversight body, the board has a responsibility to evaluate whether planning decisions are equitably distributing both the benefits and the burdens of growth, and whether they are advancing opportunities for marginalized communities. So I see the board's role as threefold. Setting the expectation that equity be a central lens in all plans and projects, holding staff and applicants accountable for demonstrating how equity has been considered and addressed, and engaging communities that have historically been left out of the planning process. In my professional experience, I've worked to incorporate equity considerations into zoning analyses and to facilitate inclusive public engagement processes. If appointed, I would support the Planning and Parks Departments in refining and operationalizing tools like the Community Equity Index framework and racial equity impact assessments. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those tools now, but I think we have to continue to monitor these tools and see if they can be improved for future use. I would also encourage the expansion of culturally competent outreach, especially in communities where language access or historical mistrust of government might limit participation. Importantly, equity must be viewed not only through outcomes such as access to affordable housing and parks, but also through process. Who gets a voice, when, and how. I would work to ensure that we're building trust, sharing power, and delivering on the county's broader goals for a more inclusive and just future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pedden?
Thank you for that question. The Planning Board has a central role in ensuring that racial equity and social justice are embedded in every aspect of the work that we do, both in the Planning Department and Parks Department. These are not separate initiatives. They must guide how we plan communities, allocate resources, and engage with the public. Thrive 2050 puts equity upfront, urging us to correct historical disparities in access to housing, transportations, park, and economic opportunities. It is a value-driven approach that I have carried throughout all my career. One example I'm proud of is the new Planning Academy. Its first cohort includes 50 residents, many from underrepresented communities. It's giving people the tools to understand and influence planning decisions. That kind of education and outreach help us build long-term relationship and trust. On the park side, the PROS plan use real data to identify where access is lacking. And as Deputy Director of Parks, I worked on budgets and project delivery to shift investment to where it is needed most, places like Long Branch and East County. That equity-driven focus has been continued up to now. Internally, I have seen our agency support inclusion through affinity groups, heritage celebrations, and speaker series. But equity also means supportive career pathways and ensuring all staff, from planners to maintenance crews, feel heard and respected. With my over 4 decades in county government, I bring the experience and perspective needed to ask the right question. Who is benefiting from this policy? Who is being left behind? And how can we build more just and inclusive communities? And I will continue so if I'm reappointed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schutting?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that given the current climate, I'm honored to live in a county that still asks this question. I had the honor as well to participate with the Government Alliance for Racial Equity cohort through the Council of Governments in 2023. It was a year-long program. It was incredibly beneficial to me and I believe to the city of Gaithersburg as a result. The last 2 years of my tenure as Director of Planning and Code for Gaithersburg, I oversaw the complete comprehensive rewrite of our zoning code, which hadn't been rewritten since the 60s. So it was a monumental task, but as we all know, that zoning historically has been inherently inequitable. And so every aspect of the rewrite of the zoning code for Gaithersburg was looked at through an equity lens, and I think that is absolutely critical in every land use decision for the city of Gaithersburg as well, obviously for the county. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And glad to hear you were part of that cohort because I was on the board of GOG when we put that in place. So I'm glad you participated in that. The last question, hopefully, is the easiest one that I have for you all. Do you have any limits on your availability to prepare for and fully participate in board meetings? And are there any potential conflicts of interest of which we should be aware? Ms. Pettiman, I would imagine you're on the board. This should be an easy question for you.
No, I have no limitation on my time. I should say that, frankly, I spend about average 25 to 30 hours a week. And I'm not required to, but I want to because I know people, I know the plans, and many of master plans or policies, in fact, I contact staff, I ask questions, and I want to understand what the effects are and how we could, make it easier for our, residents. So I'm committed to put as much as time it's needed in this position, and I have no conflict of interest either.
Mr. Schutting?
I don't believe I have any conflicts of interest or issues with my time. The only possibility would be I'm currently serving on the Board of Appeals for the Gaithersburg. If that was determined to be a conflict, I would resign from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Elliott?
Thank you. I'm fully committed to preparing and participating in the planning board meetings to the extent that my professional obligations allow. I have discussed the opportunity with my current employer, and I have their full support in making the time commitment necessary to serve effectively on the board. That said, there are some limitations related to my role as a planning professional representing clients in zoning and land use matters in DC. In particular, I'm occasionally required to attend evening hearings for projects in which I'm directly involved, and I would do my best to coordinate that with planning board as I can. Additionally, I've consulted with our ethics attorneys and have been advised that I have to recuse myself from any planning board hearing or matter involving a client of our firm, regardless of whether we're actively working on a case for that client at the time. And based on a preliminary review of recent board dockets, I estimate that this could require me to recuse myself from approximately 15 to 20% of the cases. But if appointed, I'd work closely with the appropriate ethics officials to ensure all recusals are handled transparently and in accordance with county policies and expectations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your in-depth answers to those questions. I will now open it up to colleagues for additional questions and call on first Chair of the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, Chair Friedson.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks to each of you. No questions, just a very brief comment, which is to say we have an embarrassment of riches in Montgomery County to have so much talent and so many people who are willing to serve, and it is embodied by the three of you. I want to thank Ms. Pedoeem for her interest and continuing to serve, not an easy role, something that we rely on quite a bit on this body and that the community relies on quite a bit, so integral to our environmental sustainability, our economic development, our ability to be a welcoming and inclusive community. The Planning Board is at the heart of all of it, and so thank you for your interest and willingness and continuation in your service in retirement. And Mr. Schlichting and Ms. Elliott, thank you for your interest in serving as well. We're very fortunate to be a place where so many people want to serve and there's such subject matter expertise and experience. So just want to express my appreciation, and I really appreciate the robust and thoughtful discussion. You covered it all, and I have nothing to ask further.
Thank you. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First of all, I too want to thank all three of you for applying. I've learned not only from your answers, but I've actually personally seen two of you over the years in all the good works that you've done. And I do appreciate all your answers. You know, to the point of Councilmember Friedson, I know that all three of you would do a very good job, and I appreciate that. And we are so very fortunate to have so many people apply who could do such a good job. And it's comforting to know that we have that many qualified people. It is not comforting on how difficult this decision will be for me personally, but I do appreciate you applying, and I know that whoever is continues to be or will be on the board will do a great job for Montgomery County. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you all for wanting to continue serving the community we all love. I do have a question, and I need to ask one question to Ms. Pedoeem, since she is already serving on the Planning Board, and I'll augment it for the other two. But it's Ms. Pedoeem, what are you most proud of during your first term on the Planning Board? And because the two of you are not yet on the Planning Board, my question would be, what metric would make you proud if you were to serve after concluding your first term?
Thank you for asking that question. As I discussed it earlier, I'm really proud for bringing my past experience, the 40 years with the government, especially with Commission. As you know, I have been with the Commission 17 years, and before that, I was with Montgomery County government. I was in Montgomery government 17 years before I come to Commission, and then after that for 3 years in permitting services. And every single experience that I have had, both in two areas, I have been on the side of vision and planning, and I have been on the side of implementation. You know, master plans don't implement themselves, okay? We have a section now in every single master plan that talks about implementation. So the policies that we set forth as a vision, if they're not real and we cannot implement them easily, it's going to just stay as aspiration. It's not going to happen. So I bring that important aspect that I have been on both sides. And that's what that when, President asked us about one of the most critical issues is the balancing of all of these different priorities and issues that we have through planning and what is real and what can be done. And this is what I have brought the past 2 years. And I know that we have a chairman that is fantastic and we have worked so well together, and he had been very open to ideas, and he had let me express the experience, and it has been extremely helpful for that, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Pedwin. Ms. Elliott?
Thank you for the question. The reason why I find myself in this area of planning, concerning more of a development review side of planning, is because I do like to see my projects come to fruition one day. I feel like when you're doing long range planning and you're writing the small area plans, that you're going to have to wait a lot longer to see how those pan out. And so for me, my satisfaction comes when I see the project actually deliver, and when it delivers the things that were promised, like affordable housing, jobs, parks, and all of those amenities that benefit the residents. And so that's how I would gauge success in this role.
Thank you. Mr. Schlichting?
Thank you for the question. I think I'll answer it based on what I'm most proud of with my tenure with the city of Gaithersburg, which is I believe that the decisions that I considered and made during that time always had that lens of enriching the community in an inclusive way. And I think that's exactly what I tried to do and what I hope that I did achieve in the city of Gaithersburg, and that I would transfer that to the county if I'm able to.
Great. Thank you all for your responses. We do live in a great community, and it has gotten here purposefully through planning. And so thank you for wanting to continue doing that work.
Great, terrific. Thank you so much for all of your participation and your willingness to step up, your past participation and future. I just want to say thank you again for the full council, and the clerk will be in touch in the next few days regarding next steps. So thank you again for being with us today. Thank you. Next, the council will now sit as the district council for the introduction of 3 items. The first is a zoning text amendment 25-08 exemptions landscape contractor. The lead sponsor is Councilmember Mink. A public hearing is scheduled for July 15th, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. I'll first turn it over to Councilmember Mink to discuss her bill or her ZTA.
All right. Thank you, Madam President. ZTA at 2508 relates to the current grandfathered or legacy landscaping businesses that were in operation in the RC zone prior to 2014. It amends the zoning ordinance to clarify that DPS should use the total square footage of a legacy landscaping use in the RC when determining compliance. This will account for situations where the footprint might shift left or right a few feet, but the overall size remains the same. For what we found, landscaping businesses may not be aware of their legacy status, so the CTA also allows the property owner to return the footprint to its original square footage one time if a violation to the legacy provision is identified. Essentially, the CTA maintains the spirit and intent of the ordinance, facilitating compliance while avoiding landscapers accidentally triggering a major regulatory burden because of a minor infrastructure tweak or a good faith minor error that they are willing to correct. Anything that I should?
Ms. Nadeau, anything to add?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Not seeing anyone else who wants to speak, this ZTA is introduced. The next item for the District Council's consideration is the introduction of local map amendment H-156 regarding the property located at 7501 to 7515 Standish Place, 7519 Standish Place, 7529 Standish Place, and 7609-7623 Standish Place in Plat Book 118 as plat number 13905. Action is tentatively scheduled for June 17th, 2025. Ms. Nadeau, do you have anything to speak to this?
Nothing to add other than next week will be action on this item, and you will have Ms. Ciccone, the hearing examiner, here to walk you through it, and then you will vote next week.
Great, thank you. This local map amendment is introduced. The final item for the District Council session is the introduction of corrective map amendment H-158, 7979 Old Georgetown Road. A public hearing is scheduled for July 15th, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. Ms. Nadeau, anything on this?
So, corrective map amendment, I believe we had our first one last year. It's a correction of an error in a sectional map amendment. This was an error in the Bethesda downtown plan. Unlike LMAs, these have a public hearing. So after that public hearing time has passed, this will also be scheduled before the council. The PHP chair has agreed that this does not need to go to committee first.
Terrific. Thank you very much. This corrective map amendment is introduced. Thank you, Ms. Nadeau. The next item is item 5, our consent calendar. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Councilmember Balcom moved. Council Vice President Joando second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is everyone. All right. The council will move to the Capitol Crescent Trail Conference Room at noon today for a meeting with the Maryland Association of Counties. We will return to our broadcasted meeting here at 1:30 p.m. for our public hearings. That is all for us now, and we will see you at 1:30. Thank you all.